Welcome to the FWA weekly review of the newspapers. We're here in Manchester, myself and Paul Hetherington, after one of the highlights of our social calendar, the FWA Northern Managers Awards. Really good turnout, really good night. And David Wagner, I guess, stole the show, didn't he?
Absolutely, Paul. Yeah, to have a match at 4 o'clock against Manchester City of all teams, to lose in somewhat unfortunate circumstances, 7 minutes away from getting a great result, and within 3 hours of the final whistle blowing at Huddersfield, he's in our function room at the Northern FWA dinner. Great effort by him, and it just helped to make what was another really good night for us. I think we had 13 managers past and present in the room, some of them award winners obviously, so that was a really good turnout. We do have a good relationship with the LMA.
Yeah.
And the managers support this function really well, and as you say, Paul, it was great to see David there.
And Sean Dyche as well, because Burnley also played.
Similar circumstances, 93rd minute penalty to lose a game,
Yeah.
and Sean still honoured his commitment to come. He really enjoys the function, so yes, it was a good night for us.
But I think it was one of the other Premier League team that played yesterday, the Everton, who a lot of the headlines, not just this morning, obviously after their defeat 4-1 at Southampton, but over the course of the past few days, you know, there in the Times, there's the Everton horror show.
Yes.
You know, to lose as badly as that at a team where you would think, you know, they can't afford to lose the likes of Southampton. And even going back to sort of Friday, in the Times, Matt Dickens did a column talking about the dysfunction, I guess is the word that you would use, behind the scenes at Everton.
Yes, Everton's one of the stories of the season for the wrong reasons. At the start of this season, there's a lot of players brought in. Obviously, there was a very significant departure, in particular in Lukaku. But Everton were optimistic. They thought they might be. Certainly they expected to be up there, top 6, top 7. I can remember Jose Mourinho even saying that when you talk about the number of teams who could win the league this season, don't discount Everton. Well, you can certainly discount Everton now, and what you've got to look at, it, being realistic, is that they're in a serious relegation fight. And it's a good word, it's a dysfunctional situation there at the moment. They're struggling, confidence is really low. They don't look like scoring goals, and they don't look like, you know, keeping the ball out the net at the other end either, do they? They're leaking too many goals. And I think it's something like 16 in the last 4 games now, something like that, after yesterday's bad defeat. So they are in serious trouble, and this story is going to be one of the major stories of the week. There's going to be huge attention on it in all the papers. And of course they have an intriguing match against West Ham,
Yes, they do, yeah.
who just happen to be managed by David Moyes.
Yeah, it's when you talk about a manager, you know, the lack of manager and the lack of cohesion it was seen in the search for a replacement.
Yes.
To Koeman. That went to the heart of Matt's piece on Friday, and it was carried on by, I think it was Simon Mullock on the back page of the Sunday Mirror yesterday, where he was talking about almost like a breakdown in the relationship between Bill Kenwright, the chairman, and Fahad Moshiri, who's bought 49.9% of the club. And I think the tenor of Matt's piece on Friday and carried on by Simon yesterday was, Everton, you know, be careful what you wish for, because it would seem that Kenwright and Moshiri are not necessarily seeing eye to eye on A, the search for the manager, B, buying players, and that whole general malaise behind the scenes.
Yes, absolutely. That was the theme with Simon. That there's problems right at the top. There's disagreements on the direction in which the club should now head, and I think we've seen this really going back to the summer, where there's almost sort of too many chiefs and not enough Indians there, because there's a lot of people got to say at Everton, and you know, you've almost got 2 owners in a way. You've got the owner and you've got the chairman who wants to run the club basically and have his say. They had major problems, which is something which has been highlighted in all the newspapers throughout the season, in terms of recruitment. Because you had a manager in Ronald Koeman, who at the time, who knew who he wanted. You had Steve Walsh, who's the head of recruitment, knowing who he wanted. And Bill Kenwright was certainly putting his penny within as well. And the bottom line is they're in a mess. And this has been brewing, and it's getting worse. And it's a fascinating story. Evertonians hate it. They probably would use a different word to fascinating. But it is a story which, as I said earlier, is going to run and run, and it's going to be really big news this week.
And there's still it would appear, no closer to appointing a manager.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think we all know, you certainly know, Paul, that that their ideal appointment would be Marco Silva at Watford. They identified him as the man they wanted, and understandably, when you look where Watford are in the league, when you look at the style of football they're producing, you can understand Everton wanting him. But they haven't managed to get that deal over the line, so the situation drags on.
And to an extent where they've alienated Watford so badly that Watford sent a cease and desist letter.
That's right.
To them at the back end of last week. So that doesn't exactly look as if there's a warmth of relationship.
Which I think was in the Sunday Times, wasn't it, the weekend?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's actually. I think it was. Come back to it again. I've given Matt Dickens a lot of praise, but it was in his column on Friday, and it was picked up again. The Sunday Times said that and Jonathan Northcroft said that if Everton were to keep pursuing Marco Silva, Watford would feel obliged to go to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Well, so that's nobody wants to. No club wants to be involved in a row with the Premier League, do they?
No, of course not. No, because apart from the political implications of it and the embarrassment of it as well, and the onus is on Everton to put up or shut up when it comes to Marco Silva.
Yeah.
They've got to produce the right amount of money if they're going to land him. At the moment, they haven't done so, even though they've offered around £10 million in compensation. So they've got to decide, do we really go for it here, or do we walk away, because they need to make an appointment and they need to do it quickly.
Talking about managers who've winning awards, and you said in your speech last night, we're likely to see Pep Guardiola this time next year at this event, because it's for managers who've won trophies or promotions and had success. Back page here of the we're up in Manchester, Manchester Evening News. Sterling service. Manchester City, I mean, I missed the first 10 or 15 minutes because I was travelling up here yesterday, but they look as if that kind of result is the kind that could get them over the line this season.
Yes, yeah, they look unstoppable, and that was an example of a game where they really had to work hard. They had to be patient, they had to be persistent. It wasn't one of those games where they're beating people by 4, 5, 6 or even 7 on one example this season. And once again, this looked like being a result. 7 minutes to go, 1-1. Not just a great result for Huddersfield, that would have been a great result for Manchester United, for instance. Yeah. And because if you look at the results over the weekend, from United's point of view, they won. Obviously, Liverpool and Chelsea cancelled each other out. Tottenham dropped 2 points at home. It looked as if City were going to drop 2 points. They didn't. And I think that tells you everything about this Manchester City team.
Is there more to them then than just the fine flowing?
Yes, there is.
Astonishing football at times.
Yeah, there is. I think there's been some. I did an interview with Peter Reid at the weekend, who's a former Man City manager, obviously, player, coach, still watches a lot of football at the Etihad. He said this is the best Manchester City team he has ever seen.
Really?
And he said it's not just the fantastic attacking talent they've got. He said the signing of Edison has been absolutely key. They now have a top goalkeeper who's made a big difference. And he also highlighted the important job that Fernandinho does. It's sort of that defensive midfielder, protecting the defence. And I think, there's still a feeling in the game that City will concede goals at times. But this is a more rounded City team compared to last season.
And you're based up here in the northwest, Paul. You're in Manchester. You shuttle between City and United largely throughout the week, and certainly for the weekend. We've got the Manchester derby at Old Trafford on December the 10th. Do you think? And it's impossible to say, I guess, but do you think that if City avoid defeat, then they'll be the champions?
I do. I mean, Manchester United's big hope now this season is to beat Manchester City twice. They're going to have to do that, really, if they're going to stop City winning the league. And at the moment, it's a huge ask. If there's one team capable of doing it, if there's one manager capable of coming up with a plan to do it, it's Jose Mourinho. So this is absolutely must win for United, and it's going to be a really fascinating match. And just on the title issue generally, Paul, I thought it was interesting at the weekend in terms of a live story after a match on Saturday, which a lot of the Sunday papers picked up as their back page lead, was Maurizio Pochettino effectively conceding the title. That's something we did, the Sun did, the Sunday Express did. You know, now you think this is a very good Spurs team who beat Real Madrid recently, top manager, top players. I've got about half the England team, and they're admitting in November we can't catch City, we can't compete with them.
And I think there's 8 points the gap. Even if United beat City twice, home and away, there's still that 2 point. And also the way City play, the goal difference is worth an extra point as well, isn't it?
That is worth an extra point. You're absolutely right. So City, United not only need to win those 2 derby matches, they've got to hope City slip up somewhere as well.
Yeah. Okay. Paul, great to see you. Thanks for the event last night. Masterfully put together with you and the Northern Committee. Thanks very much. See you soon.
Thank you.